is the Ross Kaminsky Show.
You're a great American.
He's a great guy.
Now, Ross Kaminsky on Denver's talk station, 630 KHAL.
Well, here we are back again together after my week off. Oh, it is wonderful to be back with you. I hope you had a great July 4th. It was funny, and whole July 4th week for that matter. There was some dude who was tweeting saying, KHAL, what's going on with Ross Putin? That's my Twitter handle, at Ross Putin. And by the way, no, it's not for Vladimir Putin. I had Ross Putin from the mid-'90s before anybody ever heard of Vladimir Putin. And they said, what does relaxing with the family mean? And my promo, oh, I'm out relaxing with the family, Brian Kilmeade will be doing the show. So, and I just saw that yesterday. They're like, what does it mean? Was he suspended over something? and I tweeted back, dude, sometimes relaxing with the family just means, wait for it now, relaxing with the family.
Unless you're a senator saying that.
Yeah, unless I'm a senator claiming to hike the Appalachian Trail. But no, so the first couple days of last week was just more stuff fixing up the house. It's an endless amount of stuff that's still endless. But then, and Kristen said she would love to have a couple of days of peace and quiet to herself. So I took the kids up to Wyoming. We went up to a town called Gillette, Wyoming. Almost basically straight up I-25 for a few hours, and then a very slight right turn, but still basically going north for another 100 and something miles, and you end up in the town of Gillette, Wyoming. And there was nary a mask to be seen, with the exception of when Jasper and I went and got haircuts over at, I think it was a Great Clips. I get all those places confused. I think it was a Great Clips. It was the only place that I even saw a mask in that whole part of the state. And it was great to have a little sense of normalcy. I don't mean the whole mask thing as any kind of political statement like lots of people are making out of it, and I wish they wouldn't, but whatever. It was just people weren't worried about it. And I wasn't worried about it. And again, I'm not trying to be casual about it. I just wasn't worried. And so we just did our thing, and we went to some restaurants, and there's a little hotel up there that's got a water slide attached to it, a part of their swimming pool, a big water slide, fairly big water slide. So we did that. And then what? We drove over to Devil's Tower, which is only an hour away. But so we got pretty close to Devil's Tower, which is kind of a spectacular thing, actually. America's first national monument, which I guess ties into some of the Trump stuff we may talk about in a bit. When he spoke from Mount Rushmore, we were very near Mount Rushmore, actually, and thought about going, but decided I didn't want to deal with the security and possible protesters and all that. So we didn't drive over there. But Devil's Tower had roadworks going on in the road from the entrance gate up to the tower. So we just got to the entrance gate, made a U-turn, and drove home. And we were only gone for basically 3 days and 2 nights, but it felt like a long time. And it was a wonderful little vacation. I carried my Glock 43 the whole time, almost the whole time, which was kind of weird because it's a much safer place than Denver is. And if there's any place where I probably didn't need to carry, and probably everyone else already was carrying, it would have been Wyoming. And yet I did it anyway. I don't know why, but maybe just getting used to carrying more often, just for the practice of it all. So we got back on, let's see, what was it? Friday night. So that would have been the night of the 3rd. So I was home for July 4th. And boy, were there a lot of fireworks around the place. I mean, big fireworks, like big, loud fireworks. And it was actually kind of spectacular. And it was kind of fun to have people in the neighborhood, since Denver didn't have fireworks. Some various communities had fireworks. I think Highlands Ranch had a fairly big one, but I'm not really close enough to Highlands Ranch anymore like I used to be when I was in Littleton that I could see it all. There's turned into this whole controversy we'll talk about more later in the show, but people are going crazy about fireworks. I don't know. Have you heard of this website called Nextdoor? People sign up with their addresses, and then it lets you be in contact just with people who live near you. It's kind of like, well, I don't want to say it's exactly like Facebook, but imagine if you had a Facebook-like system where you were only exchanging messages with people who lived very, very near you. You know, in your same zip code, and maybe the zip code's immediately bordering you, that kind of thing, and posted stuff that was just about living around there, you know, recommendations for businesses and crime and safety and real estate stuff. So on Nextdoor, there's been this plague of people complaining about fireworks. Here's one example. A woman named Jessica, I won't use her last name, even though her last name is up on the website. It says, "I've never been so disappointed in this neighborhood I grew up in. Pets are traumatized. Veterans, not all, are often traumatized. Wildlife is traumatized, and mothers are abandoning their nests just so we can set off explosions. This is the worst I've ever seen or heard. We can and should be better." Oh, gosh, there's a lot of that. There's definitely a lot of that. You've got a few people saying, you know, this is fun. This is July 4th. Cities aren't having it. We're celebrating our country. We're celebrating our independence. Another person says, this is another woman, her first name is Jane. She says, "Gosh, we are all blessed to live in a neighborhood where the biggest problem we face is overly rambunctious celebrations on the birthday of our country." It's just, everything is a thing these days, right? Everything is a thing these days. Everyone's got something to complain about. Everything is, oh, gosh. I'll tell you what, let me just talk a little about July 4th. And actually, I knew I was forgetting something this morning, Shannon. I forgot to get the text window open, so I'm going to do that right now. And so if anyone wants to text me at 57739, and please do include the word Ross in the text, I will be seeing that starting about 1/2 second from now. Okay, I've got this text window open now. So if you text me at 57739, I'll see it. I want to know what your thoughts were on July 4th, about July 4th this year. Did it feel the same? Did it feel different? Better, worse? How was it different than most other July 4ths? Undoubtedly, this was kind of a different one, right? So what was July 4th to you? And in fact, if you want to give me a shout at the studio, you want to play along, play the home game, as they used to say, early in the morning, I'd love to hear from you at 303-713-TALK. 303-713-8255. But what I really want to know is, what did you think of on July 4th, about July 4th? 303-713-TALK, or just text me at 57739, and I may share your text on the air without your name. So I had this weird feeling, you know, standing in the backyard, and there were fireworks kind of all around us. It seemed like a lot of the neighbors had fireworks, big ones, like they would go up into the air, make a loud bang and spray colors all over the place, like I would say a small version of professional fireworks, but not even really a small version. I mean, they were serious. They were loud. My dog didn't care. Maybe some people's dogs did. Mine was just looking around. Hey, that's interesting. What's that? And all around us and off in the distance. So my backyard faces west. For the first time, I think, since I lived in Colorado, actually, I've always had basically east-facing views. So now I've got a west-facing view for the first time. And so we can kind of see out towards Lakewood, and you heard Pat Woodard talk about the story with Bandimere Speedway that I'm going to talk about a bit later on. When those lights are on, I can see the lights of Bandimere Speedway from the house. So we're looking out in that direction, and out there I saw lots of fireworks, and some of them were probably at Bandimere itself, but all along kind of north to south, up along the foothill areas and curving around a little bit, fireworks all over the place. And then fireworks all around our house too. And it was interesting. Kristen said, but she didn't mean this in a bad way, and I want to say that first as a caveat, because it'll sound bad when I say it. She said it sounds almost like a war zone. Now, she didn't mean that it was scaring or anything, but it just had this feeling because so many people were doing their own fireworks this year. And in fact, if you live in Colorado and you want to get the good / illegal fireworks, a lot of people just drive up to Wyoming. You just get a little bit across the border there, and there's this exit that just has 3 or 4 or 5 big fireworks stores, and they are just full of cars just looking to pick up fireworks. And so since so many people were doing this themselves, you could hear in the distance this low rumbling, boom, boom, boom. And of course, the stuff near you too. And it did sound a little bit like the soundtrack of a World War II movie where you're hearing the artillery fire way, way in the distance and the smaller explosions or small arms fire around you. It was a really weird scene in that way, and it was much more of that than I had ever seen before, ever heard before, in terms of just local fireworks and people doing it locally. All right, let's grab a call. Let's go to Tim, who's driving around this morning. Great to talk to you early on a Monday. Tim, how was your July 4th?
That was great, Ross. Thanks. It was interesting, though. It was my wife's birthday. Excuse me. And it was a very small birthday party, obviously, because of the conditions. But you know what I noticed, even before the 4th, was so many people shooting off fireworks.
Yeah.
Driving through Denver. We're down in Franktown, so we're out in the country. And I heard more than I've ever heard this year. And I heard a lot of small arms fire as well that I've not heard before on 4th of July. We typically go to see a big fireworks display for my wife's birthday. And that didn't happen this year either. There was a small one down in South Aurora, like Centennial. But, yeah, it was really interesting. I felt for and I prayed for the people that get nervous because of war issues and having served before. But I felt maybe all these small firearms and the fireworks were just the fact of what I would call patriots kind of getting fed up with getting a lot of stuff shoved down our throats.
I think there's a lot of that. Now, one quick question for you, Tim. How sure are you that you heard small arms fire rather than just a different sounding fireworks? Because that would be a little crazy, even in a rural-ish area like Franktown. It's not like we live in Baghdad and people are just firing weapons in the air in celebration.
Right. And I'm next to positive.
Wow.
You can just tell. Fireworks have one sound. I've grown up around guns.
Yeah.
And guns have another sound. Have a lot of neighbors that I know are Second Amendment people. And
right.
I considered going and grabbing a couple. But I thought I was just sitting on my couch reading, listening to the fireworks, and enjoying our patriotism of this country being celebrated. So I enjoyed it. But I do feel for the guys who have issues having served and been around too many big arms fire.
Yeah, I got 2 listener texts who share a point that you made. One says, Ross, this was the best year in display of fireworks. I don't know if it was the best display of fireworks, like if you want to count big public celebrations. But anyway, this was the best year. And to me, it was a message to the government to kiss off, as we Americans are free and don't have to be controlled. And another person says, Ross, never so proud to be an American. It was amazing. Was a double-barreled middle finger to all those hating on America and burning our flag. So I think a lot of people are right there with you, Tim. And so am I, by the way.
Yeah, me too. And it was great to hear it. I felt good about our country because of that.
All right, let me.
Felt for the people that suffer from PTSD.
All right, since you're giving such good answers, I'll ask you a follow-up question. So when I was standing out there out in the backyard with my wife, who was born in Australia but been an American citizen for more than a decade now and really loves this country, we were both having these kind of mixed feelings about, on the one hand, it feels kind of hard to celebrate right now. Like, it doesn't feel like a joyous time. And on the other hand, if there was ever a time when those of us who really care about Independence Day and the founding of our country and our founding principles and freedom, if there was ever a time where we should not just celebrate, but make sure everyone knows that we're celebrating, it's now. How did you have that kind of balance going on in your mind?
I felt more like the latter, that I was proud to be an American and I want to celebrate it. And the COVID stuff just gives me another, and all the political stuff just gives me another reason to celebrate. You know, my father served in World War II, served in the Korea War. So I have a little bit different perspective than even my kids who I've told about, but they don't get it. I lived with my dad, and he told a few stories here and there, but I was proud. I'm still proud to be an American today, and I've got quite a sense of enjoyment and pleasure out of so many fireworks going off around us that it made me feel more patriotic. So
Excellent.
I'm in the celebration mode.
Excellent.
I guess, at least for this holiday, right? This is what we were founded on.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks for the call, Tim, and if you're in
Thanks,
Franktown,
Rob.
if you see our friend Mark Major around there somewhere, tell him hi. He lives out in your neck
All right,
of the
will do.
woods.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think that a lot of folks feel just like Tim, and I did too. I don't think there were a lot of people firing actual guns into the air around where I live. I could imagine it in other places for sure. I do picture, some kind of crazy celebration in the Middle East and people firing guns into the air, but it was a weird thing for me, wasn't it? It was a weird thing to be standing out there, and on the one hand, you feel like, look, as I said earlier in the segment, I really don't think about the virus much, but still, you got all that going on, and you got the news that won't stop talking about how many more cases there are, and indeed, the number of cases has absolutely exploded, but the number of deaths has not gone up at all, which is interesting, right? I guess not really surprising when you know that the number of cases is going up among young people, but still, what the news, this is going to tie into something else we're going to have to talk about today. The news media is doing more than ever, and that's saying a lot because they've already done a lot for a long time. They are doing more than ever to make people feel terrible about the direction that the United States is going right now, so that we will blame it on Trump and the Republicans in the election. And what's scary to me is I think it's going to work. I think that people like Tim and most people who listen to this show, and producer Shannon and me, we kind of understand what's going on here, and we love this country, and we're overjoyed, not just happy, overjoyed to celebrate July 4th and celebrate American independence. But it's a never-ending rain on your literal parade by the media. You know what? Let's talk about it more right after this.
This is Denver's Talk Station with Ross Kaminsky now. Tom Martino at 10, 630 KHOW, Denver.